we'll just kind of share information with you back and forth. What is a resume? A lot of the way I'm going to describe it to you may sound a little bit more like a business, coming from a business background, and that's because that is my background. So the way it's described is more of a self-marketing tool. You have got to convince this employer that you're the best person for this job, that you've got the education you need, that you've got experience. And even if you have had limited experience, how do we work to make that market you the very best way that we possibly can? And we can do that. We want to remember everything that you've done, special events you've participated in, work study that you've done. Regardless of what area of work study, you're gathering skills and information that can help you in any job. So we've just got to use that in the right way. It's a record of your past experiences, a predictor of future intentions or goals, and then our primary goal is to try to get that interview.
And so when it's set up accordingly, it's a biography of yourself, hopefully on one page. We're going to try to get it on one page if possible. But of course the accuracy is important, but you want to make it so interesting and so intriguing that the person will read it more than just looking at key spots on it. Yeah.
These are some of the main headings that are used. Now that's not to say that we can't use other headings, we can add to that, but if we will touch on all of these, and we're going to take them individually and talk with you about them, if we will touch on all of these, that gives us a really good snapshot, a really good picture. And please, as we're going through this, please feel free to ask questions. We need your questions.
Yes.
You know, things that maybe you've already started working on your resume and you've got some questions about what should I do here or should I add this, just ask us as we go along today. Gordon, you want to talk a little bit about the opening?
Sure.
Please.
Normally speaking, we use font 12 in the body of it, but for your name, you'll want to make that a little larger. Probably highlight it, make it a little larger. But what else do we put up there at the top? Well, we're going to put things like your address, your telephone number, your email address. And we can go into this pretty much in depth, but that email address is really important because that email address needs to be a professional type of email. Susie Q2 at such and such, that's pretty cute, but that's not something professionally you want to put on a resume. So you probably use your Martin email address. Your telephone number needs to be a number that is somewhere where they can get you. How can they contact you the fastest so that they don't have to call 2 or 3 different spots to catch you? So cell phone would probably be a good one. You may want to put your other number down, your more permanent number, but put a number down that's easy to contact. And your address. People ask this a lot. Gail, you might, the address, and it comes up, should I give my home address or should I give my school address? How do you handle that, Gail?
Well, usually if it's a senior and let's say for instance this career fair is in February, you're going to be in this area probably for a while, unless you're a commuter. And if you're in this area, I would give the address of obviously where you are right now.
Right.
You can list both though. You can say temporary address and put your apartment or the address you have currently, and then say permanent address and give your home address. That way you cover both. I want to just mention a couple of other things. When Gordon was talking about your name, and he said highlight, we want to bold it.
That's what I should have said.
Yeah, we want to bold your name, and it is larger, just like Gordon said. And also, you want to, even with your cell phone, what do they hear as far as voicemail? And do you have music that comes on when they call you? What does a person hear when they call you, when they reach your cell phone? You've got to start thinking about all of that now.
Yes.
Everything needs to be professional. You are young professionals. You're going out to begin your professional career. So everything has got to move in that direction.
One person said the other day, Gail, that once the resume goes out, the interview starts.
Exactly.
Because that call, what if they try to call you and they get some kind of music or some kind of an odd response, That's giving them an impression, and so that's part of the interview process.
It is, and if someone that you meet says to you, well, we would love to talk with you more, give my office a call and set up an appointment that would be good for you. Again, part of that interview, whoever answers that phone to set up that interview and you're speaking with them, you're being interviewed. Because, you know, they have contact with that person who may be hiring you. So every step throughout now is a part of that interview process.
And the other thing too, on the interviewing, you don't consider it an interview, you talk to a third party about who you're sending your resumes out to. These people may know the person that's the hiring authority real well. You may not know that. So that's an indirect or a third party interview. Yeah.
Can you think of anything about the introduction part that maybe you would like to ask, or anything that was more brief? Then let's look at the education, and we can go through. I think I've taken each of these and broken those down. This is career objective. Do you want to say a little bit about that? That's a part of that opening.
That's the very first narrative portion of it. The career objective. Sometimes personal information. I mean, it's titled different things, but it's a short, maybe 2 or 3 sentence narrative on who you are, what you're applying for. In other words, you got to be specific enough to let them know who are you, what are you applying for. If you're applying to a business, you've got to be somewhat specific about that, but yet general enough so that you can use it for other businesses. And something like desiring to obtain a position as a manager in a, I'm trying to think of the exact words, but in a business that is up and coming, using the highest integrity. You know, you say something about yourself. So it's a way you can sell yourself too on the job objective. And if you know exactly where you want to apply, then you get real specific, because to a person that's going to review that, if you say Magneti Morelli, let's say, you put that down, you know, that's making it real personal, isn't it? Direct. You just got to remember that when you send it out to another person or company, you've got to change that. And that career objective may change too, just a little bit, depending on the kind of job you're applying for. Yeah, so that career objective is the first thing they read, and everybody reads the career objective. I mean, it's just, you know, when you read a book, you start out at the first, so you're going to read that. Will they read every portion of the resume? Probably not. But they're going to read that career objective. That's for sure.
And you want to be sure, guys, you talk about how you can help them.
Yes.
It shouldn't be all about, I want to grow and I want this, and but you're talking about how you're excited to be a team member and move forward, and you know, talk about how you can help them, how you can work with them, and how you can help in that growth. So because we're looking at specific ways that that you can contribute, ways that you can help contribute.
And generally, you don't use the word I. Personal pronouns, I, me. And you normally don't even use sentences, sentence fragments. It's interesting how resumes are developed. And you can develop in different ways, but that's generally the way.
Let's look at education together. That would be another section. And for most of our students, that's going to be first, right after the career objective.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but because that's what your most immediate attention has been. Your education, you need to start with your most recent first. So you would start with Martin Methodist College, give the location of the college, Pulaski, Tennessee, give the dates that you've attended. If you're planning to graduate in May, say anticipated graduation, May 2017. So you want to give that name of your college, the location, and the dates attended. Then you want to be sure and list the degree that you will be receiving. Look in the college catalog.
Be specific.
Be specific. Be sure you've got that correct, okay? Be sure you've listed it correctly. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes you may want to add a few courses that you've had. And think about that. If you add those courses, think about that. Try to think about the courses you've had that will give you show you in the most diverse light, that will show what a good, well-rounded foundation that you've got. I'm just going to use the example of business for just a few minutes. If you were a business major and you were listing some of those courses, I would list something in finance. I would list marketing. I would list management information systems, communications. Try to get those things that show leadership, international business. List those things that show that you're this well-rounded individual with a good foundation.
You can get this online with the 10 things that employers are looking for. When you look at those 10 things, odds are you've had classes in those areas. So consequently, if those are the things that an employer is looking for, and you've had classes in that, it'd be good if you put a few of those classes down. And those classes you put down there ought to reflect directly back on your career objective. In other words, does it support your career objective? If you list a class that basically doesn't strengthen or give the future employer the idea that this is something I can use, or this person knows enough to hold the position, it's not of any value to them. So your courses need to support that career objective if you can.
And guys, if you're looking to pursue graduate school, and
Yes.
maybe you're applying for an assistantship, a graduate assistantship, look at, if you've had an opportunity, and I know if you've been in the history program here, you've done research and you've done a lot of writing. I know that you have, or you will be. If you've done a special project, if you've completed a special project, it's wonderful to list that.
Sure
They
is.
like to see that you've carried it through.
Yeah.
They want to know that you can, that you have done the work, you've done the research, but you know how to carry a project through to its completion. Okay? And that's a good thing. That represents you well. So think about those opportunities. And if you haven't had an opportunity to maybe be involved in a special research project, you may want to just look at that. Talk with Dr. Vickers, talk with Dr. Heilman, Dr. B, any of them. And if you've got that opportunity, if you have an opportunity for an internship, and I know they are looking at those
Yes.
In history as well, think about anything like that will give you that edge. It's going to move you forward.
It's important. Now, the graduate resume may differ just a little bit from a work resume, but not a whole lot. The other thing you got to remember is that career objective for a graduate school is a little different, isn't it? So what you state up there would be just a tad different from a job resume. The graduate school research is something that's almost imperative now. I remember when we took a young man a few years back up to the Owen School of Business up at Vanderbilt, a bright young man, German student. And I sat out there and waited out there, and when the interview was over, they called me back, and I thought, oh Lord, what am I going to say? And they were really nice. There were 4 of them, as I remember, and they basically said to me, well, Mr. Thayer, we're glad that he came up. We're glad you brought him up. I want you to know that all of our admittance to Vanderbilt requires some research experience. Well, at that time, he didn't have any. I really believe he would have made it through Vanderbilt. You know who I'm speaking of, if he'd have gotten in. That's our fault. We should, but it's also the student. If it's available out there, you've got to take advantage of it. Please, if you're going to graduate school, do some type of research project. It doesn't have to be extensive, but please do. It can be in any field, on anything, but they want to see how your thinking process is ordered. So that we could extend on that, but I think that's enough.
And if you have any major achievements, if you've been inducted in an honor society, especially that relates to your discipline, I would list it here instead of under the heading of organizations and honors, and so it will not be lost in that list. I would list it here, especially if it's related to your field of study. If you have, a lot of people will ask us, what do we do about GPA? Do we list the GPA? If it's at least a 3.0 or better, I would go ahead and list it. If it's not, I just wouldn't list it there. If they are interested, they'll ask you and you can give it at that point. But that's just usually a good rule of thumb. But if you've been inducted in any honor societies, if you've been, I know sometimes we'll have people that are part of an honor society and maybe they will go to a regional convention and they'll help speak or they'll give a presentation with
That looks great.
with our sponsor, and that's great.
Yes.
That's great here.
You know, belonging to 10 or 12 organizations or clubs looks good to you, but they would rather have you belong to 2 or 3, and as Ms. Newton said, show some type of continuance in the program and be able to do a project while you're in there to its completion. It's better to do that than to join everything under the sun. That's something to kind of keep in mind too. Yeah.
You want to, now you will take each of your colleges. I mentioned to you early on, list Martin Methodist first because that's your most recent. That's where you are now. If you completed a degree, an AA degree at junior college, community college, we want to list that college.
Yes.
Again, where it's located, dates attended, the degree you received. You may not have received a degree there, but you did quite a bit of course completion there. You want to be sure that you list that as well, and if you participated.
Did anybody attend a community college?
Okay, good.
Good, too. Fantastic. So you want to definitely get that down too, because that shows continuance too, doesn't it? Perseverance to a 2-year degree and then on for a 4th.
All right, let's move on. Does anyone have any questions about the education? You may come back to the, you may think of some as we move forward, but let's look at experience. Now, many times, this is where our students will hesitate just a little bit because most of us, all of us, some of the experience that we had while we're in college is probably not in the area that you hope to do long term for your chosen career.
But they expect that.
But they do expect that. But here's the thing. Someone may say to us, or say to me, or Gordon, either one, well, I've worked in fast food. I've pretty much just worked like at McDonald's or somewhere while I've been in college. And that's okay. That's wonderful. Think about what you're doing there. You are serving customers. You're interested in customer service. You're interested in that person being happy with. That takes good communication skills. That takes sometimes some conflict resolution. Somebody's not happy, you've worked it out, you've made them feel good about something. You're developing a lot of good skills there. Don't put down the things that you've done. It's just we've got to look at it together and present it in the best light for you. That's what we've got to do.
And based, of course, on what that career objective, but like team player, are you able to work in the team format? Conflict resolution. You probably have worked, if you worked at McDonald's, also handled some money on the finance side. And so people come in all the time, don't they, Gail? Oh, I haven't done anything, I just have not done, oh, I bet you've done more than you think you have. So don't shortchange yourself. You have got certain traits and certain characteristics, and you've done certain things, even during the summer, that we can build upon.
If you please list your employer or employment, list the name of the organization where you've been working, where it's located, again, the dates that you work there. One of them, for many of you, maybe in your final semester, maybe the spring semester, you have done an internship. Let's list that. In fact, you would want to list that first, probably, if you've done that most recently, because it has the best chance of being related to your career objective, to what you're hoping to do. But you want to list that, and then we've got to come down. It's great to list the name, list when you work there and all, but then we've got to do some bullets, and we've got to be specific about what did you do there. Let's talk about, and you want to use action verbs. You organized this, you developed this, you led this. You're doing something. They want to see that you're doing something. So how we say that is critical.
And how you say it's so important using that action verb. You try to quantify it too, if you can, by using numbers. Served or created 3 documents. For the purpose of, you get it on one line, but you want to make sure that action verb also reflects what you did. And once again, hopefully reflecting back to that career objective, Yeah, so it's one of these things where it's kind of interesting and very creative in developing some of these things that you've done, because most people don't think they've done very much, and man, they've done a lot.
You'd be surprised how many students have come in.
Oh, all the time.
And just initially, one of the first things they'll say is, well, I don't really have any skills. I have.
Oh,
Sure
they say
you
that
do.
all the time.
Sure you do.
Sure.
Absolutely. We've just got to talk about it.
Yeah.
Talk about what you have and what you've developed and get that down for you. But of course you have
Yeah.
skills. All of you have skills. But you want to look at each one of these, and I mentioned bulleting there.
Mm-hmm.
Format is so important. It's really key in presenting this resume, because you want some variety in that format. You know, we want something that will draw that reader's eye immediately, very quickly, to what you've done. You know, so these key areas of courses you've taken, or these key areas of experience that you have, skills you've developed. We want that eye to go immediately to those. So we've got to break it up. We've got to do some bulleting or some numbering, and you know, we've got to. Then we'll pull back out and we'll have kind of a sentence or two. But we want some variety there, because they want to see it quickly. Remember, you're not the only one that's going to be submitting, you know? So we want something they can look at easily, quickly, but get a great snapshot of you, you know, and what you've done.
Sometimes we call that a hook. You know, and they're going to look at the career objective, and many times they'll skip down a few things. They're assuming they're going to be a college graduate. I mean, they look at that quickly. They'll go down to the experience that you've had to see if those things feed into what they're looking for.
Then we'll have, once we've got all of our information on experience, and we'll very carefully look at that, then we'll move into a heading, and people use different headings for this, but they're activities, honors, special skills, and again, you need to think about what you bring to the table. Do you speak more than one language? That's wonderful. That's amazing. Be sure that that's listed there. Have you used it? Did you use that skill in some way? Computer competence. Talk about it. You may have been involved, most all of you probably are pretty comfortable with Microsoft Office, you know, with Word, with PowerPoint, with those. But you want to be sure and list those kinds of things. Excel, if you've used these and you're comfortable, you want to list those kinds of things. If you have used a special kind of software in your research or in the work that you've done, let's list that, because you know what it shows them? This person can transfer skills. They can transfer knowledge. They use software. They were able to use this here. They'll be able to pick up what we're using over here. You know, it shows that you can make that transition.
And you know, the average person that works only stays in that position for around 3 years. Not that they're leaving to go to another job in another place, but they're looking for advancement. So all these skills that you possess, as Gail had mentioned, will feed real well in your advancement, see? And they start looking at people to advance through the ranks if you stay with the company. Don't assume certain things that they know this about you because it's listed in the catalog that you've had it. They may not even know our catalog, see? State them, as Gail said.
Community service.
Oh, this is a big one.
It is big. Most every organization now wants to know you're interested in the world beyond you, okay? That you are interested in making our world better, making our region better, making our local community better. So anything that you have participated in, if you've been involved in Habitat for Humanity, or if you've traveled on some of the mission trips through the school or through your church, if you've done that, if you have helped in the community with blood drives or anything like that you've done, because again, it's very important for all of us to want to do what we can to make it a better place, whether it's locally, regionally, or in the world. So anything like that you've been involved. Gordon, if you know of a specific.
I think that's well stated, Gail. All places. I don't know of a single place you can work at that doesn't want people involved in the community. If you work for a school system, they want you out there in the community to reflect what they're doing. In other words, you're actually you're an ambassador for that company. My son, he's an attorney. Well, he belongs to 4 different organizations. Teaches part-time. And I said, well, son, how do you do that? He said, they expect me to do things like this. It's just expected. It's not just in law, it's in everything. Get involved. Get involved in the community. And when you do something really positive there, it reflects back on that organization, that company, because of you. So, gosh, you can't overstate the importance of this, can you, Gail?
You can. I mean, and all of this will help you network.
Yes.
And you've got to be looking for these opportunities,
Yeah.
like published works
Ooh, this is good.
and presentations. As I mentioned to you earlier, I know you do a lot of writing, especially those of you who are history majors. You know, again, talk with the professors, see about what kind of journals maybe are available out there, publications that you could maybe submit an article to. You know, think about what kind of opportunities are out there. They would know those kinds of professional journals that
Yes.
you could participate in. And think about the big pictures that are given here on campus, the lecture series, those kinds of things. If there's an opportunity for you to give a presentation with one of your professors at one of those, that's wonderful.
Yes.
You've got to really start thinking along those lines. Everything is about marketing. It's about marketing yourself. Now, you know, I want you to understand, we want you to do these things because it helps you. It helps you, and we want you to be successful. That's what we're trying to say. But you've got to start thinking about that marketing. I mean, you just do. That's just a part of moving your career forward. So while it is strengthening you personally and helping you grow, it's also helping this resume grow. So, you know, this is sort of all works together in that.
You know, a lot of people are mild and meek and very humble, and I think that's a wonderful trait to have. But on a resume, you've got to be a little bit more assertive. I mean, you're stating the truth, but you really got to look at yourself and say, and believe, really truly believe, I can help that company, I can help that firm, I can help that agency. But here's how I can help. Yeah, that's where the thinking process comes in.
And remember, your special interests that you have are other, we haven't mentioned this, but if you are an athlete on campus, that's a wonderful characteristic. You can show about how you are good with time management. You know, you're able to participate in a sport and you manage your time well enough that you get all of your coursework done, you're successful in that. You may be a member of the choir, drama. I mean, there's so many things on campus. But see, that develops good time management skills. It develops, and these are skills you need to list. These are skills that, you know, that you've used. You want to be sure that everything you have on this resume is accurate and is true. And you can go back and show how you did this. If an employer finds that any information that you have on there is not true, if it's false, that can be grounds for dismissal.
Also find a resume is bad.
Yes, it is. So we want you to, but we want you to also present yourself in the best light. So by saying that means we've got to look at everything you're doing. I mean, we've got to think about, you've got to be thinking that way. And you should really be thinking that way now. See, Gordon just mentioned this Nashville Career Fair is February 23rd.
Go to it.
You know, go to that. That's
Go to
a
it.
wonderful opportunity. But get that resume ready. Let us start helping you. We don't want you to come in and in 15 minutes say, oh, by the way, I need a resume tomorrow. You know, well, we could do something to help you, but we don't feel like it would be the quality work that we want you to have.
No.
So start it early so we can look at it with you. We can revise it. We can, make it the best it can be for you.
Well, even if you're a senior, how many seniors do we have? Okay. Juniors. Okay. Sophomores. Okay. You freshmen? You freshmen. Well, at this point, start listing the things that you've done. Go back, because invariably when people come in, we start asking them questions and they're going off the top of their head, thinking of the things they've done. Gail will ask them, well, what particular community endeavors or school endeavors have you been involved in? And you'll list as many as you can think of off the top of your head. But odds are, if you get away from it for a while and then come back to it, you're going to say, because this happens quite frequently to me and it probably does to you, oh gosh, Gordon, Mr. Thayer, I forgot to put down such and such. and such and such. Now, we can change it, but it's helpful if you'll start listing things. Just put them, you know, put it on the computer. You don't have just a few words. When you did it, what you did, a little bit about, you know, something about the activity itself, and keep a list of this. Put it up in the sky, in the clouds, and so you can bring it back down. You've done some things, all of you as freshmen. I guarantee you, it would be good to place on a resume if you can remember them.
In your FYE class, you probably had a community project that you did.
Sure,
You know,
sure.
everyone should have that.
Everybody needs that. And so start that right now if you can. It just really helps out because you want the best picture we can paint for you. And it'll be a good picture, but your part of it is keeping track of all this and being involved.
Gordon, start us off on references, please.
References. Well, normally this is the last page, and this is generally a separate page. It used to be years ago. At the bottom of your resume, you would put references, you bold it, and then put available upon request. Well, over the years, and I think you'll agree with this, Gail, that's changed some, hasn't it?
It has.
We really now want to put a separate page down where we actually put that person's name down. Generally 3, can be more, generally not to exceed 5. But 3 to 5 references. It used to be, years ago, you'd put them alphabetically. Now, there's psychology involved in resume writing as there is in the interviewing skill. Odds are, if a person looks at your resume and looks then at the references, they'll probably start at the top and start calling people or contacting them. Odds are, if they get good reports, they're probably not going to go through all 5. 2 or 3. So now what we try to do, or at least I try to do, and I think you do too, Gail, try to put the person down that reflects, that you feel will reflect the best image upon you. Now, and all 3 of them need to do it. So you put the name of the person, okay, then the title of the person, their PhD, let's say it's Dr. Heilman, professor of history, Martin Methodist College. I put the address down,
I did too.
telephone number, and recently I've been putting email addresses down. Do you put email also?
I do.
Because that's a quick way for them to get back in touch with Dr. Heilman. And then I'd go to my second one, you know, and then my third one. Make it so it's easy for them to check out. You know, these references are really important because you need to make sure you contact each of these 3 to 5, because this has happened to me, and I know Gail and I've done these programs so frequently, it's happened to her too. I'll get a call and they'll say, Susie Q has mentioned you as a possible, as stated you as a reference. Can you say something about her? What would you like to say about her in reference to a job as a... Well, if I know this is coming, I generally have some ideas down of what I'm going to say. If I don't know, if you haven't mentioned it to me, I generally drop the phone. Why do I drop the phone? So while I'm picking it up, what am I doing? I'm thinking about what I want to say. The last thing you want is silence on the phone. You know, because silence means he's thinking about it. But they intuitively would think, well, I'm trying to think of something positive and I don't know exactly what to say. And that's kind of negative. You know, that's kind of negative for that person. That may be the best person in the world. I just didn't know she put me down or he put me down. So those references need to be, you need to contact each one of them. The other thing I guess I should say is what types of references, Gail? What should we use? Well, you're an entry-level person in the world of work. So obviously I would say definitely put a professor down. Someone in your field, if you can. Like Dr. Heilman. We're picking on Dr. Heilman today because we're in his class, but you know, you'd want to put someone like that down. Someone normally in my readings indicates someone who knows something about your character, your work ethic. You know, that's pretty important. and your educational status. Now, some people can address all three. You know, one reference could be all three. But you want to really think these references through. They're really important. Gail, what do you want to add to that?
Well, I just want to mention, as Gordon said, it's so important that you ask these persons
Yes.
first so they will be aware. It's also a professional courtesy.
It is.
You just would not list someone's name, their contact information, anything like that without asking first. That's a professional courtesy.
Yeah.
So you certainly want to do that. And then, yes, of course, that gives them a heads up. They know that, or they're expecting a call, so they're ready at that point. And as Gordon said, you know, really think through who you are asking.
Yes.
Okay? One of your professors, a community person,
Ooh, good.
if at all possible. Sometimes persons now they'll have a class, let's say, maybe they'll list one of their classes they have, but they've had the opportunity to know or work with Pat Ford while they're here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Pat also serves as the mayor of the community.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're applying for something in this area, you know, a lot of people would know Pat. So having one of your professors, but also a community person here on campus, you kind of get that double benefit there.
Oh, it's
you
important.
know. And I would spread it out. I would list a professor and then list Pat separately as my community, you know, individual. A former employer, that's a good person. They can speak to your work ethic. They can speak to how you handled input from others, how you showed growth, how you were able to work as a team member. How, you know, they can help describe all of those things. So a former employer is always a good person.
One thing I would say on a graduate resume, the references for that, you definitely need to put somebody down under whom you've done research. Put that person's name down, because for graduate school, that may be the first person you want to list. Like some Professor Heilman, you did some kind of history research. Now, this may not be the person you'd want to put down for an employment resume reference, but for educational, you know, continuance for a master's or a doctorate type thing, graduate school, you definitely want to do that. Put someone down that you've done a little research on.
Let's kind of go through and bring several of these ideas back together here at the end. And if you have any questions, please just ask us. You want to use resume quality paper for your resume. You can get that at Walmart. They sell it in small boxes. You know, they'll have envelopes with them, all of those kinds of things. But you want to be sure you that you use resume quality paper. Please, please, please proofread this resume. This should be as perfect as we can possibly get any document, because it is representing you, it's representing the kind of work you do, it's representing what you would bring to this organization. So this may not be fair always, but if they pick up a resume, let's say there's several people that's applied, and they pick up a resume on that first page, as soon as they look at it, they see a misspelled word.
Yes.
That's one way to sort of
That's
just
the kiss of death.
put it to the side. Because here's their thinking, okay? If the person did not take the time to get this document right, and this is the document representing them, how are they going to represent us, you know, as a member of our team? So we want to be sure that goes into peer review. Let other people look at it. Let persons besides Gordon and I, let your academic mentor look at it, your professor in your discipline look at it. Everyone can bring something to it. You know, we're here to help you in any way we possibly can. But it doesn't offend us. It makes us feel good that you're having others look at it. That's what you should be doing, okay? We're one part of this, but we want you to have it the best you can. Again, using action verbs, making sure that you are all the way through this. If you're applying for a particular, and they call that a targeted resume, if you're applying for a particular position, all the way through, you want to make sure that your skills, your education, your community outreach, everything ties in to this position that you're applying for. Gordon, what else can you think of? Anything else?
Well, one of the things about action verbs, normally speaking, when you start the bulletin process, the action verb comes first. Generally, that's the way I do it here. Created, coordinated, because those are the things that'll catch the eye of the employer more than anything else. Is just what have you done? And those action verbs speak loud and clear. Okay. Let's see. Show a clear match between qualifications and job requirements. I think you addressed that, Gail, pretty well. Ask for peer review, proofread carefully. Well, we can't overemphasize that. There's a lot of psychology in this, isn't it? I mean, you don't know what the employer is thinking, but you know if he sees an error, or if he sees that your degree is a Bachelor of Science rather than a Bachelor of Arts, and he knows that, or she knows that, that's not good. How much thought has gone into it? You don't just want to quickly do this. It takes time. And you do it over and over again. You write the preliminary draft. Then you come back and, oh gosh, I forgot this or forgot that. Okay, we add to it. Then you look at it again. And you let other people look at it. You see, it takes time. It's not something that's done even in a day. Really. It has to be done over a period of time so that every thought process has gone into the creation of that resume.
And you'd be surprised, guys, as to how much it would help you and help us if you just take these headings that we've just talked about and go through and just start listing some things. Just it doesn't have to be perfect the first time we review it with you. We can start with a rough draft, but if you just come in with blank paper, that makes it more challenging. If you have thought this through and already begun to list some things, then we can build on that.
And that's what we try to do.
We can grow on that. And that's and remember, there are other areas, the interview process, getting ready for that, we can help you with that.
Sure.
We can help you set up mock interviews, those kinds of things. Your cover letters, we can help you. Gordon is great with letters of intent in grad school, cover letters for employment, we both can help you with those. All of those kinds of things. And we're located, I hope you know this, but just to remind you, directly across the street. We're right beside the SRC. We're between the SRC and the Intermezzo Cafe. So we're, just located right there. We're happy. That's why we're here. We're happy to help you with those kinds of things.